picture it. London's West End. 1964. The velvet curtain has just fallen on another sold-out performance of My Fair Lady. Julie Andrews' dressing room overflows with flowers, the scent of victory hanging in the air. Then an urgent knock. A studio messenger steps inside, head lowered, hands gripping a telegram. Julie opens it, reads it once, then again, and her smile fades. The message is blunt. Warner Brothers had chosen Audrey Hepburn to play Eliza Doolittle in the film adaptation. The very role Julie had originated, shaped, and perfected. No warning, no explanation, just silence and betrayal. She doesn't cry, she doesn't shout. She simply sets the telegram on her vanity, wraps her coat around her shoulders, and walks into the night. For decades, Julie Andrews carried herself like royalty, graceful, composed, untouchable. But beneath that polished crown lay a woman burdened with 7 betrayals. 7 names, 7 wounds she kept hidden from the public eye. These weren't petty grudges. They were stories of sabotage, ego, and scars that never truly healed. The first name, the woman who unknowingly took her crown, was Audrey Hepburn, the quiet thief of Broadway. There were no tabloid feuds, no sharp exchanges and interviews, yet between Julie and Audrey lingered an attention so fine, so delicate, it could be sliced with a silver spoon. Not loud, not visible, but present. Like a trace of perfume in a locked dressing room, always there, even when unspoken. Warner Brothers didn't bypass Julie because she lacked talent. It was classic Hollywood politics. Audrey Hepburn was the bigger star, the safer investment. The choice was made quietly and cruelly. But what hurt Julie most? Audrey never reached out. No letter, no phone call, not even a polite nod backstage at the events they later attend. But just a void stitched neatly into every red carpet they shared. In that silence, Julie found her answer. To close friends, she once confided, "She's lovely," but that role was never truly hers. The final sting came from the film itself. Audrey's singing voice was dubbed. Julie's voice, crystal clear, disciplined and overflowing with emotion, was left sitting on the shelf. The very voice that carried Eliza Doolittle night after night on stage was suddenly deemed too theatrical for film. Meanwhile, Audrey Hepburn mouthed lyrics to a soprano she could never match. The Academy attempted to balance the scales, awarding Julie Best Actress for Mary Poppins that same year. But to Julie, it rang hollow, not a victory, just a polite consolation prize. She accepted it with her signature grace, smiling for the cameras. Yet beneath that smile was a silence that revealed far more than any speech could, and the bitterness only deepened because another figure connected to My Fair Lady cut even more painfully. Rex Harrison, the ego that eclipsed Eliza. On stage, he was adored Julie's co-star, a Broadway legend with a voice dripping equal parts charm and conceit. But once the film adaptation went into production, Rex reportedly took it upon himself to make sure Julie stayed far from the set. Too virginal, too stiff, he allegedly told the director words not spoken as critique, but as dismissal, as though her years shaping the role meant nothing. Julie never confronted him publicly. She kept her composure for decades. Then, one quiet afternoon in the 1990s, over tea with an old friend, she finally confirmed what many had long believed. Rex didn't want me near that film. He made sure of it. To her, it wasn't merely a lost job, it was intentional sabotage. She had carried Eliza through hundreds of performances, molding her with humor, intelligence, and heart. Yet when the world was finally set to meet the character she had created, the door slammed shut. No gratitude, no recognition. Rex walked through that door alone and delivered the final blow. He won the Academy Award for the very role Julie had originated, the same role she had poured her voice, her energy, her soul into night after night. As Rex stood beneath the lights, basking in applause and giving his acceptance speech, Julie watched from home, silent, motionless, the honor she deserved placed into someone else's hands. Years later, 1982, their paths crossed again at a theater reunion. Julie walked right past him. Glance, no greeting, No outstretched hand, just a cool, effortless indifference perfected over time. To outsiders, it may have looked like nothing more than two old colleagues missing each other in a crowd. But to those who understood the history, it was the quiet sound of a grudge politely preserved. Yet betrayal doesn't always come from a co-star. Sometimes it comes from the man holding the baton, Henry Mancini. For Julie Andrews, music wasn't just a career, it was her identity, her sanctuary. When she was invited to perform at a televised concert under the direction of the legendary Mancini in the early 1970s, she approached it with genuine reverence. Mancini, the maestro behind Moon River and the Pink Panther, represented a dream collaboration. At first, everything flowed beautifully. The orchestra swelled, Julie's voice rose effortlessly, and harmony filled the room until it suddenly cracked. Midway through rehearsal, Mancini abruptly cut the music, stepped forward, and said loudly, "Enough for the entire ensemble to hear. Let's try that again." With a little less choir girl and a little more woman. Gasps followed, uncomfortable glances darted around, and a silence heavier than applause settled over the studio. To him, it was direction. To her, it was a slap in the face. Julie didn't react outwardly. She simply nodded, resumed singing, and completed the session with immaculate control. But something inside her fractured. That night, she left the studio quietly and never returned to work with him again. In the days that followed, she confided in a close friend, saying he didn't critique the note, he critiqued me, my essence, my voice. She never condemned him publicly, that wasn't her way, but within her inner circle. She referred to him with a chilling phrase, "the man who tried to rewrite my soul." She would go on to sing, "For millions more, yet the wound Mancini left the feeling of being reduced to a stereotype, of being told to be less Julie and ever truly healed." Her next heartbreak wouldn't be professional at all. It would be personal. Emma Thompson, the friend who became the critic. They were meant to be kindred spirits, to women of wit, charm, and unmistakable British elegance. For years, Julie Andrews and Emma Thompson crossed paths at award shows, charity galas, and behind-the-scenes gatherings. Their exchanges were always warm, shared compliments, respectful nods, quiet admiration. Julie saw in Emma a brilliant, razor-sharp performer, someone worthy of carrying forward the tradition of classic British grace. So in 2005, when Emma Thompson began writing the remake of Nanny McPhee, Julie reached out discreetly through her agent. She wasn't asking for much, perhaps a brief cameo, a line of narration, even a small nod to her legacy, something gentle, symbolic, meaningful, but what came back was a shut door. According to one producer who witnessed the conversation, Emma's response was cold, almost clinical. "Julie's era has passed. We're going for something edgier." To the team, it was a simple, creative choice. To Julie, it was a blade slipped neatly between the ribs. She didn't protest. She didn't plead. She simply stepped back with her usual poise. But that night, alone in her home, she reportedly told a friend over the phone, "I suppose there's no room for manners in modern magic." She never watched Nanny McPhee, not out of anger, but because seeing it would have solidified the rejection, made it tangible. The industry viewed it as nothing more than routine casting, but for Julie, it carried weight. It was a message, a quiet erasure of what she'd represented for decades. Over a quiet lunch in Belgravia, she murmured to a confidant, "It's the ones you admire who hurt you the most." And hurt returned again, this time from someone who shared her musical heartbeat. Barbra Streisand, the duet that never happened. For 4 years, fans dreamed of it, a collaboration between two titans of musical cinema. Barbra and Julie, fire and precision, strength and polish. The pairing seemed destined. Record labels floated the idea, industry insiders whispered about it, Variety hinted at it in columns, but the duet, the moment, the magic, never came to be. Why? Insiders claimed it had nothing to do with scheduling conflicts or logistical hurdles. The truth was sharper. Barbra Streisand had allegedly dismissed the idea in private, saying that Julie was technically flawless, but emotionally distant. The remark wasn't meant to travel beyond closed doors, yet it eventually reached Julie. Through a trusted mutual friend, and it hurt more than anyone imagined. Julie had always praised Barbra, openly calling her bold, brilliant, fearless. She defended Barbara against harsh critics, admired her risks, celebrated her vocal daring, even referred to her as a phenomenon. So when that cold assessment found its way back to her, Julie didn't retaliate. She retreated into silence. Later, during a rare interview, when asked whether she would ever consider singing with Barbara, Julie offered a calm, calculated response. Some voices don't blend. 5 simple words that hit the musical world like lightning. It was one of the few moments where Julie wielded language like a perfectly honed blade, subtle, precise, impossible to misread. And with that, the long-imagined duet evaporated. But even that frosty exchange was nothing compared to the wound left by the person who once held her closest, Blake Edwards. The husband whose choices cut too deeply. Their love story had always seemed golden. Julie and Blake, muse and director, partners in life and creativity, a Hollywood romance built on admiration. But in 1981, that bond cracked on the set of S.O.B. The dark comedy Blake wrote and directed. If you want, I can continue rewriting the next part and then merge all these betrayal stories into one seamless narrative that flows from my fair lady to modern magic and beyond. Do you want me to do that? What was intended as satire became a personal battlefield. For the first time in her career, Julie, the pristine image of Mary Poppins, America's beloved sweetheart, was asked to appear topless. Blake insisted the scene was clever, subversive, necessary. Julie hesitated, but she trusted him, the director guiding the shot, the husband she went home to. What followed was not empowerment, but a quiet unraveling. Months after the film's release, she confided to friends that the experience had shaken both her public image and her marriage. The media backlash was intense. Fans were bewildered. Julie felt exposed in every possible sense. Behind closed doors, arguments simmered not about the nudity itself, but about what it symbolized: control, risk, and the uncomfortable question of who the joke was really aimed at. She gave him her career, one close friend said, and he handed her a script that mocked it. Julie forgave him eventually. Time softened the surface, but the betrayal remained, hidden beneath every interview. Every red carpet smile, every gesture of unity. While the public saw a devoted partnership, Julie never forgot what it felt like to be exposed by the one person meant to protect her. Then came the 7th name, the one she never dared speak aloud until now: Walt Disney. The father of a dream and the source of profound disappointment. He gave her Mary Poppins, the role that launched her into Hollywood fame, but he also gave her something far heavier: rules, expectations, and an image she could never quite break free from. Julie adored Walt. She often praised his imagination, his brilliance, his uncanny gift for pulling magic out of the ordinary. Yet behind the sparkle of fairy dust was a more complicated truth. Disney didn't just want her to play perfection. He wanted her to live at on-screen, off-screen, in public, in private. Always smiling, always gracious, always the flawless figure he helped mold. When Mary Poppins became a worldwide sensation, Julie hoped it would unlock grittier roles, more depth, more daring opportunities. Instead, Disney's team cautioned her, "Don't ruin the image Walt created." In that moment, she realized she wasn't simply an actress anymore. She had become a symbol, a brand, and the role that had lifted her into the stratosphere now quietly tethered her. Studios didn't want Julie Andrews. They wanted Mary Poppins in another costume. Producers didn't seek complexity. They wanted sweetness. She tried to stretch, to evolve, to step outside the pristine mold. But every attempt was met with soft resistance, polite refusals, and the same subtle reminder of who she was expected to be. In a rare, unguarded moment, she once confessed to a friend during lunch in the English countryside, "Walt gave me wings, but only if I agreed to stay in the cage." She didn't resent him. It wasn't anger she carried. It was something sadder: heartbreak, the kind that lingers quietly and reshapes a life. And that quiet ache marked the beginning of her long, gentle rebellion. Julie Andrews never shouted her truth. She never raged, never posted, never leaked. But at 89, she is finally letting the truth settle into the world, not with bitterness, but with calm clarity. She stayed polite until people stopped listening. She stayed kind until kindness became an excuse to overlook her. She remained graceful even as the world tried to shrink her to a single role. 7 names. 7 moments that chipped away at the porcelain pedestal she never asked to stand on. But beneath that carefully polished image was something far stronger still. Julie Andrews didn't simply endure these betrayals. She carried them with grace, transformed them, and kept singing through every wound. And now, at long last, her voice, the one they tried to control, diminish, or reshape, is finally being heard.